6 months ago, I feared change. Then I decided I wanted to start taking more risks in life. I used to feel stuck and watch life pass by. Trying new things and taking risks, it just wasn't in my nature. Instead, I felt comfortable staying in my own bubble and playing it safe because I felt way too scared to fail. But I took the biggest risk of my life last week when I went skydiving from 13,000 feet. A massive risk that not many people will ever want to take. But because it was such a massive risk for me to take and such a big jump, no pun intended, from my previous self, I wanted to share that journey and help you start taking more risks in life from today. So why take on such a massive risk like skydiving in the first place? Well, this time last year, I felt like I'd been living a dull life. From the age of 20 to 24, I didn't have many amazing experiences or happy memories that defined those years. Naturally, I've been quite shy, timid, and introverted. And so I wanted to start challenging myself, start living a more adventurous life instead of letting it just drift. And the spark for skydiving came from hearing about a friend who flew over to South Africa and did skydiving. I thought it sounded awesome, but hella nerve-wracking to me. So I thought, why not mark my 25th birthday, which is seen as a big milestone, with an uncomfortable, life-changing experience? Skydiving fit the bill. So I wanted skydiving to mark the beginning of a more uncomfortable, memorable life. By starting at the extreme end, taking smaller risks would then feel a lot more comfortable to me and a lot easier after risking my life from 13,000 feet. I knew I'd gain a lot of confidence from skydiving as well to try out new things in the future. And if it went right, I had such an awesome story to tell for the rest of my life. So we scheduled the skydive weeks in advance, but final 2 weeks actually flew by so quickly. And I didn't really notice that I was about to go on this trip. And partly because I had so many other things that I was doing as well. But I didn't really have time to worry about the day itself. And thankfully, a family friend recently went skydiving and they gave me a lot more details in terms of what to expect, when the most nerve-wracking moments would be, the feeling when you jump out. So I was a little bit prepared for it, but still quite nervous on the day. But I could start to brace myself from that moment. Other than that, I kept visualizing what it would feel like after jumping out of the plane and landing, how awesome it would feel and how amazing an experience it would actually be. And this actually kept me going whenever I did feel nervous, because there were plenty of times on the day itself where I felt really nervous, especially as I was about to jump. And just visualizing that positive outcome really helped me in the moment. And you may be thinking, well, okay, cool, but why go from 0 to 100? Why go from not taking any risks in life to going to the extreme end and skydiving? Why do that? Well, over the last 3 months, I've been taking more and more risks in my content creation, in my career, and in my personal life. But I just felt like I needed a bigger bang to help me build a lot of momentum. And I felt skydiving would do just that. Plus, when I look back on it, skydiving, if you have a good instructor, weather conditions and working equipment, is actually one of the safest things you can do, which is ironic now that I've done it, yes, but there are stats which show how relatively safe it is. And it felt necessary for me to do as well, to start over and become a more interesting person, which again is such a dramatic activity to do so, but again, it would have been an awesome story if it went right. So that's how I felt before the day and why I wanted to skydive. But what about my emotions on the day as I was getting ready to jump and do it for real? Well, on the day, it definitely dawned on me that I'd be actually jumping out of a plane at 13,000 feet. It felt real on the day itself. And the morning of, it rained heavily, and there was a real risk that the jump would have been cancelled and rescheduled, which actually kind of made me a bit more nervous, because I felt that if it was pushed back again another 3-4 weeks, that potential anxiety would just build up a little bit. So part of me was nervous, but part of me also wanted to just get it done. However, eventually we got the all clear, and then I was on my way to the center, which was an hour away from me. And surprise, surprise, it got more real on the way to the center. But I still felt confident, no nerves. My parents kept on asking me, are you worried? Are you nervous? I was like, well, no, I'm completely fine. But it did feel like there was no backing out now. And technically, there really wasn't a way to back out now. I paid over £200 for the experience and literally an hour away from jumping out of the sky. So it was too late from this point on out, I felt, to turn around and go home. And you know what? Backing out now would have just felt like a bit of a cop out to me. I'd prepared myself. I'd written it down a year before that I wanted to go skydiving. I'd already heard from my family friend how the experience would be, and I just felt ready to do it. So backing out now would have been a cop out. I owed it to myself, from wanting to do it a year ago and writing it in my phone to actually jumping out on the day. And then even when the fear started to build up as we parked up at the center, this feeling of needing to follow through on my commitment kept me focused and ready for the jump. And you know what? I wanted to purchase a camera package as well, just so that I could capture the experience of skydiving. Many times when I'd been on holiday or been to nice places before, I refused to take pictures because I just felt that I wanted to enjoy the moment and I didn't want anything else to interrupt. And I felt that living it was more important than actually seeing pictures. But I do feel like in this day and age, especially as much as we experience in life, yes, you want to experience it and be in the moment, but I also now feel that taking more pictures just helps you to capture and encode that memory in your head so that it's easier to remember later on in life. And also, I wanted to look good and not look like I was wetting myself with the camera. So the suit felt really lightweight, and I had such an awesome instructor. His name was Keith. He really G'd me up by making me feel like I was ready for the jump and just keeping me confident, asking me loads of questions about why I wanted to jump, what I do for a living, and what I want to do after jumping, because he made it clear to me that once you jump, you're probably going to want to do it again. And he really helped ease any tension that I may have had. And if you go skydiving for the first time, a good instructor doesn't just keep you safe. That's their main job. A really good instructor will ease your tensions, make you feel confident and ready to jump, even if you feel sick to your stomach at the time that you're ready to jump. And they also joke around with you again to help you feel at ease. Replaying that positive visualization in mind that I mentioned earlier of me wanting to land and feeling great about having jumped and the just absolute euphoria I'd feel with facing my fears, just replaying that in my mind definitely kept me going as well as we started to board the plane. So deep breathing also helped, in particular, something called box breathing. So I literally took a big deep breath in for 4 seconds, held it for 4 seconds, exhaled for 4 seconds, and held that for 4 seconds. So I just repeated that mini cycle, and I do it whenever I get a bit nervous. And definitely just before I was about to jump, definitely got a little bit more nervous. So I felt that deep breathing definitely helped calm my nerves a bit more in that situation. Also made a prayer or two so I could feel a bit safer. Well, it definitely felt more real once we got into the plane. I look happy and confident in these videos, but trust me, inside, the butterflies were starting to build up in my stomach. And it was a very tight plane, as you can see in this video. We had about 10 people in. We actually had 3 people who jumped off first. They're experienced solo skydivers. So seeing them jump out first was quite an interesting experience, but I definitely started to feel a little bit cramped. It was quite loud in the plane, and the tightness of it all just made me start to feel a little bit more anxious and a bit claustrophobic as well. And as we got higher, this just built up, although I was in awe of actually getting above the clouds and seeing everything from that view. As the flap lifted and I got closer and closer to the edge of the plane, fear of jumping just felt at its absolute highest. Just seeing the clouds below me and dangling on the edge was absolutely terrifying. I was literally staring fear in the face. And I got into the jump position, ready to risk it all and jump from 13,000 feet. This was now real. There was no going back once I jumped out, and I couldn't go back down with the plane. So it was now or never. Then no countdown. Boom. We jumped through the air at such a speed that I couldn't even describe. And free falling through the sky is a unique experience, and it was honestly terrifying. Of course, you feel scared because of the speed that you're dropping at, but looking out through the sky and into the clouds creates such a surreal and jaw-dropping feeling. Literally, I mean, look at my face. I didn't know whether to scream in fear or just scream in pure joy. Breathing felt normal. My body wasn't falling apart, and the adrenaline was just pumping through my veins. But all I could do was scream. I've never screamed like this before in my life, and thankfully you can't hear the audio of me screaming. But it was a mixture of I love this and oh my god, this is so scary. I didn't have time to look around me and savor the sky. I relied on the footage for that. The 45 seconds of freefall, one of the best moments of my life. So when the parachute opened, everything just stopped. And it was like someone just woke you up from a deep sleep. Now I could finally relax and take in everything around me, the fields, the towns, and countryside. Everything on the ground just looked like a small dot. I couldn't even see my parents below, and the euphoria of the freefall really kicked in. My instructor kept easing me and reminding me of how awesome the jump was. And in that moment, where I'm parachuting down and savoring the scenery, I finally appreciated the present moment and knew that the worst part was now over. I jumped out the sky and I'd hung in the air now, and this was my victory lap on the way down. Even that the worst part, the freefall, only lasted 45 seconds, it made me realize that facing our fears feels awesome and makes you feel even more optimistic about life. I don't regret having jumped out, and in fact, I want to do it again and see if I can go even higher than 13,000 feet. Then the landing, smooth and coordinated with my instructor. That's where all the relief poured out, as you can see from my face. Here's another clip of me explaining how I felt afterwards.
It was so scary because we were just dropping so
fast.
And I had to stay in this position as well. So I was just screaming and screaming and screaming.
Did you scream?
I had to.
So now that I've been through the skydiving experience and the euphoria has now slowly drifted away, I have a few thoughts. Number one is that we've been wired to avoid failure at all costs. It's not easy to change this feeling, but I've learned to reframe failure as lessons to grow from. You can build confidence by taking small, manageable risks. For example, if you want to be more sociable, but you dread the thought of having to go out and speak to people in real life, maybe you could join an online community that's related to your interests. It's a low pressure way to meet with new people and bond over your common interests. Jumping out of a plane has also made me realize that not trying new things robs you of memorable experiences and true growth. It's not just missing out on fun, it's about regretting the chances that you never took. Each time you play it safe, you chip away at your self-esteem and self-trust. And I want to encourage you to start taking more risks in life, because it will get you out your comfort zone, it will force you to try new things, and it will make you a way more interesting person. Believe me. For me, landing felt sensational and like I conquered the skies. So for me, the sky is no longer the limit. So now you know how I felt before and after taking such a massive risk like skydiving, and how it's changed my perspective on the power of taking risks in your life. However, you need a guide to start bridging that gap between the plan and taking the risk. And so to bridge that gap, check out this video. And remember, every step, no matter how big or small, is progress.